and welcome back to Scottish and Scared. I'm your host Stefanie, here to tell you all the weird and wonderful things about my wee country Scotland. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can send us an email at scottishandscared@gmail.com, follow us on Instagram at scottishandscaredpod, or head over to our website scottishandscared.com for all of our links and anything else that you may need. If you wouldn't mind, please rate, review and comment wherever you may be listening. It does help us out a lot. Now, on to the show. Hello everyone and welcome back. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you will know that we had a squirrel issue in the Tyre household not that long ago, and it would seem that they have continued their path of destruction and they have chewed away all the insulation around my toilet fan. There's like a fan that takes the moisture out there and stuff. They've chewed away all the insulation around it, and as a result of that, moisture has been gathering inside the panels on the outside of my house, and we now have mould. And if you know that last week I actually was joking about how everyone has been sick, and I was wondering if there was mould in the house. Well, there actually is mould in the house. So we have a scaffolding outside our house right now. There's people on it constantly, so recording has not been an option. I also have my neighbour downstairs who thinks she's Beyonce, so if you hear that, apologies. But yeah, the squirrels have continued their path of destruction, and I am now having to have the entirety of the panelling on the outside of my house removed to repack the insulation and hopefully get rid of the squirrels. About a year and a half ago, maybe less, we had 2 squirrels in our kitchen. In our actual kitchen, sitting on the countertop, and my dad had an hour and a half fight with the squirrel to get it out of our house. So that was great. That was fun. I am no longer a squirrel fan. I don't like them. I don't think they're cute. No squirrels for me. So yeah, that's where I've been. Recording has not been an option. It's been noisy. The scaffolding is literally right outside the room where I record. And obviously we've been dealing with the whole mould situation. It is only in a tiny section of the house, so it's not like rampant everywhere. So yeah, that's been dealt with. But there has been a wee bit of a reprieve right now. There's been no work getting done for a couple of days, so I thought that I might just get as much done as possible. And that is why I'm here today. But I am going to be working with Marie Curie in the next couple of weeks. I don't know if anybody's interested in that. You'll know my mum passed away from cancer last year. It was actually a year on the 5th of March. It does not feel like a year, but they reached out and they wanted me to work with them and be a storyteller. So I'm going to be doing that in the next couple of weeks. I'm excited for that, excited to tell my mum's story. So you can keep a wee eye out for that if you're interested in that kind of thing. But yeah, apart from that, everything's just been ticking along. And without further ado, I will not bore you any longer. And we will just get into today's episode. So today's tale takes us to Aberdeenshire, to the wee parish of Fivey, where the remains of a 16th century castle sit surrounded by the trees and shrubs of the ancient Gight woods. Now, a shell of its former self and swallowed by nature, the original plan was an L-shaped build that was constructed in the 1570s by George Gordon. The outbuildings on the estate were constructed after the main building's completion. The main building has what appears to be a tower with a vaulted basement, a turnpike staircase that sits at the end of a very long hallway, and it also had a hall on the first floor which would probably have been used for parties, dining, balls, all the good merry stuff. Now, the castle itself was originally known as Formartine Castle, presumably because that is the name of the surrounding area. But it is now referred to as Gight Castle. Again, I assume this is because of the name of the surrounding woods. The castle has had a few residents throughout the years, which we're going to get into, obviously. But one resident of note was said to have been Lord Byron, who, if you're not familiar, is a very famous British poet. The castle is listed as being his ancestral home, but he actually never lived there himself. His dear mother, Catherine Gordon Byron, actually sold it the year before he was born because she had to pay off some debts, so he never actually lived there. Like I said before, the Gordons constructed the castle in the 1570s and were known as a very unsavoury bunch. The first laird, William Gordon, met his demise at the Battle of Flodden in 1513. William Gordon of Gicht was amongst those responsible for the death of the bonny Earl of Moray at Donnybristle, inflicting a fatal slash across his face with a sword. The dying Moray famously retorted, "You have spoiled a better face than your own." George, the sixth laird, exhibited very unsavoury behaviour, including breaking his sword on the Laird of Leask's head, coercing his second wife's mother to change her will or face death, and attempting to extort money from his first wife's brother. In 1618, George Gordon of Gight attacked Rothmay Castle. The seventh Laird, also named George, seems to be a very popular name, was a tax collector who plundered Banff and kept all of the stolen funds. Catherine Gordon then married John Byron. However, in 1787, she was compelled to sell Gight to settle his gambling debts. It was at this point that Gordon, Earl of Aberdeen, acquired the castle for himself, which is now part of the Haddle estate and has, from what I can tell, sat uninhabited since then. With this particularly bloody and chaotic past, it's no surprise that a number of haunting legends and stories have been passed down throughout the years. During the 13th century, a man named Thomas the Rhymer visited the local area and is said to have spoken a prophecy regarding the residents of Gight. His prophecy was as follows: "At Gight 3 men by sudden death shall die, and after that the land shall lie in lee." For almost 500 years, no sudden or strange deaths had happened in relation to Gight, so most presumed the prophecy was nothing more than a good old story. Until the Earl of Aberdeen purchased the castle as a residence for his son Lord Haddle, and not too long after, Haddle actually fell from his horse while out riding and he died. This in itself isn't too peculiar, people fall from horses all the time, which would explain why, a short time later, Haddle's servant also fell from a horse and died. No more deaths would take place at the castle itself, as it shortly after fell into disrepair, with no living residents on the property. The prophecy was then unfulfilled, until a group of men arrived to do some work at a nearby farmhouse. As they worked, they were having some back and forth, work time banter, and one of them joked about Thomas the Rhymer, laughing that he obviously wasn't a very good prophet because only 2 men had actually died. The very next day they returned for their day of labour, and suddenly a wall fell over and killed one of them. I think we can all guess which man was crushed and died. So that would make 3 men killed on that land, and in my opinion, prophecy fulfilled. Like I said, the property then sat uninhabited and fell to pieces, so prophecy complete. This is not the only legend associated with Gight. There are 2 more which I am very intrigued by and are more of the devilish persuasion. The 7th Laird of Gight had found himself in a spot of bother. As we know, the Gordons were known to be extremely unruly. Unable to worm his way out of it, a small army of Covenanter troops made their way to his home. Scrambling to pack up his valuables before they arrived, he realised that he could not take everything. He decided that the best course of action was to place a stash of gold and jewels in the deepest part of a nearby river. The idea was to return once the coast was clear and retrieve them. Seeing his chance, the Laird sent one of his servants into the river to retrieve them. As the servant dived down to grab the stash, there was a silence. And then out of nowhere, he burst back to the surface, coughing and spluttering. As he clawed at the bank to get out of the water, he screamed that the devil himself was guarding that stash. The Laird, completely incensed, thinking the claim utter nonsense, scolded the servant and sent him back down to retrieve his valuables. Reluctantly, the servant did dive back down, and this time he never resurfaced. On the bank, the Laird was growing impatient until he seen a dark shape floating to the surface. It was the servant, but only part of him. The other 3 parts of this poor man began to surface all along the river. This was enough for the Laird to take off in a panicked hurry, and the stash of gold and jewels remained in the river, never to be found. Whatever was down there was strong enough to rip a man to pieces in a matter of minutes. Could it have been the devil? And where are the Laird's treasures today? People who have walked the riverbanks have witnessed the figure of a young man walking in the distance, looking lost and wet. Is this the ghost of the servant who met his demise at the hands of the devil? It would seem the devil was not quite finished with Gight or taking the lives of those who disturbed him. There were rumours of a secret passageway that ran directly underneath the castle's foundations. There were stories told by the locals that suggested the end of this passageway was guarded by the devil himself. Hearing this story, a brave young bagpiper decided that he wanted to see for himself where this tunnel ended and what was down there. His friends warned him not to go wandering in places he should not be, but he thought it utter nonsense and told them he would play a marching tune as he made his way along the passageway. That way they could hear it on the surface and follow him along his path. As he entered, he jokingly told them that if he found the devil, he would play a lament instead. Off he went into the tunnel, playing his marching tune as he went. On the surface, his very concerned friends followed along, hoping to see him pop out at the end with no incident. Unfortunately, a couple of minutes into his march, the song began to change, and to their absolute horror, they began to hear the piper's lament. They tried to pinpoint the song and help their friend, but all noise halted completely, and the piper was never seen again. Visitors to the castle and land have claimed to hear the sound of bagpipes coming from below their feet, which is so bloody creepy. As it stands right now, Gight Castle is a ruin. The structure is still visible, but only parts of it. You can go inside, but I would seriously advise not doing that, as it is extremely unstable and you probably will get hurt. But you can stand on the outside and you can have a wee look, take some pictures. The area itself is well worth a visit. The woods surrounding it are extremely old. There are a bunch of trails, very scenic. Among the wildlife are brown hares, red squirrels, badgers and deer, so definitely worth the walk. It is 100% on my list for when the wee one is able to do the journey or my partner is willing to wear the papoose to take him with us. And this is what I love. I adore places in Scotland that have these type of stories. The eeriness of it is just chef's kiss for me. I don't know if these stories are true, but honestly, I don't actually care. These are local legends, and I've said it since day one. I adore places that have local stories. I've no idea why, but they just make my hairs stand on end. To see this castle completely engulfed by nature, something that you might just stumble on while you're out a hike or out with your dog, seems very normal and interesting, and then you start to hear the legends and the history behind this place that's just sitting there in the forest, and it just makes me so goddamn happy. Our plan for the future of the show is travelling. We want to physically go visit these places, vlog everything, speak to the locals and get all of their stories, collate them and bring them to you guys so you can hear them too. This is what I want to do, and I want to bring the comfort of storytelling to you, so please stay tuned. Things are going to get better around here. I am working on it and I can't wait to share it with you. I can't wait to see more of my own country and of course hear more stories. But yeah, that was a wee short one today. There will be a new episode on Sunday from our Cursed Objects series. But unfortunately, that is all I have for you folks today. I hope you all enjoyed. I will, as always, see you in the next one. Stay weird, stay scared. Bye, folks.